Hey, there's Craig. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start. I'm doing the 101 apparently. Here's the Wi-Fi. Be gentle with it because we've had complaints it impacts the live stream, but apparently they're already complaining, so just go right ahead. So welcome to a minivan. All right, so welcome to SecDSM. Sorry for the late start here. Hopefully everybody has a nice beverage. Here's our agenda. So we're doing 101 right now. We're going to do SecDSM news after this. 6:10, we're going to have a little walkthrough of last month's CTF. So if you've never done one of the mini CTFs or you've never been sure about it, I'll be honest, I'm not a big CTF guy just because I've got imposter syndrome a little. So I'm always really hesitant to do CTFs. But Jake's going to give us a great walkthrough so that people like me know how to do it. After that, we're going to have Dave B. Doing a talk about building the Raspberry Pi Pico Ducky. And then Colin is going to talk about API bot shells. It's because I'm up here, that's why it's happening. Don't move. All right, then after that, it's just social time. All right, so just a little bit of housekeeping here. So we've got all this nice, beautiful distilling equipment. Don't touch it, please. We really, really like this space, and we don't want you to break anything. There's 2 different bathrooms. So there is one bathroom right over here, and then there's another bathroom conveniently out front next to the pizza. We don't have a sponsor this month. Our sponsor moved last minute, which is fine. That's cool. But if we had a sponsor, they'd be over there. So next month, you'll see the sponsor at that little table kind of over in the corner. Bartenders are over here. Since we don't have a sponsor, drinks are on you. Please tip your bartenders because we really like them. They take good care of us. As you can see, we've kind of got this listen to the talks, no talking, being loud, interrupting stuff going on out here. So if you want to talk, socialize, network, stuff like that, that's what we've got the front lounge area for. So we have both sides. This is all our space. So if you want to talk and hang out, do it out there. Otherwise, we're going to do the presentations in here. Disclaimer. So this is new this year. We are officially rated R, which means I can say fuck. That's just a thing we can say now. What else do we got? Code of conduct. That's on the website. Please absolutely follow it. It's really important. We want to make sure it's a safe space. Everybody's comfortable being here. If you have any problems at all, you can reach out to any of the board members in Slack. You can talk to us in person. You can also just send us an email. Another thing, stolen from SecKC, challenge ideas, not people. This is another really big thing that kind of really ties into that code of conduct. We want to make sure everybody's welcome here. So please don't have problems with people, but challenge the ideas, that's cool. Respectfully. Board members. So Brandon is around here somewhere. There he is. I never recognize him because he's shaved. Yeah. And then myself, Craig. You can talk to us anytime. We've got some rock star volunteers. So James does the news. Jared does all of our AV stuff. Woo. Kenny helps him too, but she's not here right now. And then Jake does CTF. All right, so how can you help us out? So we need speakers. We've got 2 this month. I think we have 2 lined up for next month, but then we don't have any after that. So definitely you can give a talk. Doesn't have to be like a full big talk. We can also do tool talks. So like there's a cool tool that you just know a little bit about and you want to share it. You can just do like a little demo and talk about that cool tool. Just like 5-10 minutes, that's cool. Let's see what else. Create a CTF. So we would really love if the winner of the CTF would write the next CTF, but that doesn't always happen. So if you have a cool CTF idea, definitely reach out to Jake and we can do something really cool with that. Volunteering, we always need a little bit of help to set up, a little bit of help to turn down. The only thing we ask is reach out to us beforehand. Don't just show up because sometimes then we get too many people and we're standing on top of each other. But generally speaking, we're always looking for help. And then donations. So we have Open Collective. This is new this year. We added this. Basically, you can go on opencollective.com/SecDSM, and you can donate to us right there. I believe you can do recurring or single time. You can set your dollar amount. And Open Collective is really cool because it's all open and transparent. So you can see all of our finances. Everything goes through Open Collective, so you can see everything that we're doing. All right, we're going to give a shout out to a few of our major contributors. So we're in a distillery. They distill things. As you can see, we got these wonderful barrels and stuff like that, and some of them have like company logos and stuff. So that's actually a program they have where you can adopt a barrel. And we have a couple of our sponsors who gave significantly more money as part of this like barrel partnership we've got going on with the distillery. So these are those contributors that we wanted to give an extra thanks to. Transparency report. So like I said, no sponsor tonight. So space is provided by us, SecDSM, and then you guys also by way of buying drinks. Food, SecDSM, so we've got pizza out there. Is it gone? You're kidding. So this is you guys' fault because the last 3 meetings, I have ordered so much pizza that I've taken like 6 whole pizzas home with me and then eaten it for like 2-3 days. So I ordered half the amount this time. So everybody better be back next month and eating lots of pizza. All right, transparency, fiscal stuff. Do you want to do this one or? All right. Sure, yeah.
Thanks. So this is part of the Open Collective stuff that we do. It's pretty cool. You can go there and just see, like, literally we input every transaction, and then we sync this up with our bank account manually, just to make sure that the numbers are all right. It's off a little bit here and there because this accounts for the donations that come in, and we don't get those through. We get those like at a recurring basis deposited. So this is generally a little bit ahead. But yeah, so Open Collective's cool. You can view every transaction up there, except we accept the donations. There's no additional fees, which is cool, and there's nothing for us to manage aside from logging in there and taking care of it sometimes. So it works really well. If there's any questions. If there's any questions about any of the transactions that occur there, please let me know. I'm happy to talk to them about it. And that's part of what we want to do with this community. You know, like if there's, we're a nonprofit and we're here to benefit you. So if there's any questions about how our money is being spent and whether or not it benefits you, like right now I can guarantee you we could use double the amount of chairs. You'll see that we pay for these chairs. So maybe that's something that we'll do next time. And you'll see that bill up there.
So the chairs is also you guys' fault. We had way too many last month, so I reduced those also this month. So everybody better be back in January, and we'll have more chairs and more pizza. Mini CTF. So we did something new this month. We did open it up early. If you were on Slack or Twitter, you saw that. But it is live, and you can work on that now. Again, if anybody's never done it because you're kind of nervous about it, or maybe like you've looked at it and you're not sure where to start, like there is a whole bunch of people here in this room that can give you some tips or some pointers on how to get started on it. So if you have any hesitation, like definitely we want you guys to try this thing.
All right, sweet. So events, conferences are starting to come back in person, which is awesome. These are some conferences that I am personally interested in and that I know that people from SecDSM are going. So take a picture of this screen, whatever. We don't really have it up on our website, but these are like some good events. I do want to point out that B-Sides Iowa is returning in person on April 23rd. It's going to be at Grandview University, where it has been for the last couple occurrences. And it should be really good this year. So if you're here, you should definitely go to B-Sides Iowa. It'll be really good. ShmooCon, I think, when's the next ticket sales? There was one December 1st, there's 3 rounds. There's 3 rounds. It'll be like December 14th or something like that. Check it out on the website, though. It's really hard to get into. If you get tickets, you can generally book 2 of them. I guarantee you that someone else from SecDSM will go. So go into the other events and cons channel and let people know that you got an extra ticket. BotConf is over in France. It's a really good conference if you're into like malware and botnets. CypherCon up in Milwaukee. I know of at least 3 people that are here tonight that are going up there. So if you're interested in going, buy your ticket. We can carpool, cut down on costs, share rooms, all that kind of stuff. NOLACon, I've never been. I'm super interested in going. Circle City Con is like a staple for SecDSM people. If you've never been to a conference before, I recommend that you go to Circle City Con. They don't have dates announced, but it will be in Indianapolis. Tour Camp, so if you're into camping and you like hacking, then Tour Camp's for you. They're currently sold out. You might be able to find one on Twitter to get a ticket there. It's in Washington. You have to take a ferry to the island. It's a super cool spot. And then, of course, we got summer camp coming up, DEF CON 30. We'll be back in person, new venue this year for DEF CON. So plan on, if you're planning on going to DEF CON this year, definitely planning on going to B-Sides, Las Vegas, or Black Hat, whatever. Have your employers pay for that as much as you can because it's expensive. Blue Team Con, this will be the second year for that in Chicago. Looks super interesting. I've never been, but I definitely want to go this time. And Virus Bulletin will be in Prague. So there's two, like BotConf and Virus Bulletin are really good conferences. They really focus, they blend that like practitioner and the academic aspects of it. Virus Bulletin actually produces like academic papers as part of their presentations. It's super cool. They were free last year and the year before that with the COVID stuff. I don't know if they're going to do it like hybrid this year or not, but it'll be in Prague. So anyway, big point, get together, carpool, hang out as a community. What's up? ThoughtCon, yeah, ThoughtCon's done. I don't know what the deal is with ThoughtCon, because normally they're in May, and this year they were in October, and so I don't know, they're just kind of off on their schedule. So, but yeah, ThoughtCon's a really good one. A lot of SecDSM members go there as well, so be sure to check that out. And I think Beal's up next.
Jared, are we good on audio? You comfortable with it now? You don't need to mess with anything because I can always take a break. All right, welcome everybody. It's a good crowd tonight. Welcome to the holiday edition of SecDSM and the Hacker News Network. So I'll cover a few information security stories going on. First off, actually had quite a few good ones this month, so I threw some quick hits in here. First one, a bulletproof hosting founder that was actually Russian, finally got arrested. You hear a lot about these guys getting busted. Usually they're actually not getting sentenced to anything, and they tend to be walking away. This guy actually got 60 months in a Russian prison, if I'm not mistaken, so that sounds like a hell of a lot of fun, doesn't it? And then Apple, last month I think I covered it, NSO actually got blocked by the US government and several other places. And so Apple's finally taking their turn to turn around and sue NSO Group, since the Pegasus malware that they use is a massive target on iOS and has been used to exploit a lot of non-governmental organization people, journalists, that type of thing, if you're not aware of it. And then the last one up there, hopefully if anybody has either Exchange on-prem or Exchange in hybrid data center, not completely O365, I hope you patched from the security releases that came out in April and May. They were huge. It would be a good idea if you have them to patch. Definitely, there's been proof of concept code out there for a while, and now the Black Byte ransomware group is actually specifically targeting those vulnerabilities. So again, if you have local on-prem Exchange and you haven't patched it yet, I would definitely recommend you do that. And then this one was quite entertaining. We have the good and the bad out of the FBI. So the FBI actually turned around and had an issue a couple weeks ago. If you didn't hear, I think we talked about this on Slack, and it's been all over Twitter and everything. I think it was like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, everybody started getting FBI emails into their socks. That was essentially a spam email that was impersonating an FBI warning that you had a security event. So I think there was a lot of people that got woken up for that one. It actually came from a legit email address. I think it was a third-party provider that had access in, if I'm not mistaken, that got used to abuse this. So there's a lot of people unhappy about that. But on the good side, we're finally getting ransomware groups busted, and a affiliate group that had almost 40 Bitcoin, which at the time it was seized by the FBI was worth around 1.5 million, but is actually now up to 2.3. Got seized in August. There's not a lot of detail on this exact piece. There's some information, but they're not sure how the exact numbers come out. And then law enforcement did that. So we got the good and the bad side of the FBI in the last couple weeks. And then again, in the one step forward, two step backs movement, U.S. regulators have actually forced all banks, a lot of us, I'm in the financial services industry, a lot of us were already doing this, a lot of us already have government regulators and things like that, but the U.S. has officially made it all banks liable to report cyber attacks within 36 hours, which is a great thing. A funny discussion about this one on Twitter is also that that just means they have to report things. They don't have to share any details. So like everything else, those of us on the blue team side would like to know details. Most companies, legal departments don't let this be shared. So you may find out your bank got hacked within 36 hours, but I guarantee you won't hear any reason why. And then the big step back that we're seeing, I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken, I think maybe Lloyd's of London put out a big thing about cyber insurance, and they are the backer of a whole bunch of the cyber insurance companies out there. There's a huge argument, and I assume this will affect you going into 2022. The cyber insurance providers are not happy that so many organizations, and hopefully your organization isn't one of these, that instead of having, you know, a security team or an incident response plan or anything else, was if we get hacked, the cyber insurance provider gets to pay for it. So expect cyber insurance to either premiums are going to go through the roof for the companies that still do it, or a lot of restrictions get put because the cyber insurance providers are not happy when the answer is, oh, we got ransomware, no, we don't have backups, no, we don't have a security team. You just have to write these guys a check. And by the way, they want Bitcoin. And then this is an interesting one. As you can see in the second bullet point, there's actually some claims that this was fake, but there was news put out there that there was some Russian ransomware gang forums and that they were having discussions with the Chinese on how to hack U.S. targets. And again, it was covered that supposedly this might have been a troll, but that might have also just been a cover-up too. So we'll see. But China and Russia actually getting together in their both APT groups or, you know, affiliate groups and things like that is not the greatest sign in the world. So hopefully it was a joke and not actually going on, or things are going to get worse. And this one. So if you have not heard, and this blew up all over Twitter today. I think Leslie Carhart, Hacks for Pancakes on Twitter, was talking about this. If you're not aware, a developer for Ubiquiti who had access to their cloud environment went out and he wasn't, I think, very low and slow, so there's an argument about whether they should have had tools to detect this. But the guy actually offloaded, so if you're looking for a perfect insider threat, as the GIF from eCorp shows, he downloaded gigs and gigs of company data and then turned around and posted as a anonymous whistleblower and got Brian Krebs involved in this, and actually came out like he was a whistleblower while at the same time exploiting his own company and trying to pull this ransomware. It cost the company millions of dollars, and then that was just for the ransom demand, let alone the cost and impact to the company itself and reputation and things like that. So if you're looking for justification for insider threat, you've definitely got an easy one there, because this is not a good story and the details are quite entertaining if you want to go look it up. All right, that is it for the news. We always like to do jobs. If you'd like to turn around and offer yourself up and let 30 or 40 people interview you, you can come up here and tell us that you're looking for a job. But in all seriousness, we usually have people, hiring managers or anybody who is here that's interested. If you have a job opening, local, remote, whatever it happens to be, come on up, introduce yourself, let us know where you work and what you're looking for. Anybody got something they want to talk about? In a surprise from nowhere move, here is Principal Financial Group.
Yes, it's Principal Financial Group. So Stacey Monroe. I work at Principal in Vulnerability Assessment Services, and we have 3 positions open on my team right now. One of them is for application penetration testing. I'm specifically looking for somebody who can do hardware device testing. I'm also looking for network vulnerability management, so somebody who's familiar with Nessus, Nextpost, those types of tools. And then I'm also looking for somebody to do static code and software composition analysis. So running Fortify white source tools, looking at GitHub Advanced Security, those types of things. So if you're interested, come talk to me, and the postings are all up on the board. Thanks.
Anybody else? Going once? Going twice? Nope. All right, well, we'll call it good, I think. You want me to cover this? Oh, you got one more thing? All right. Well, I'm done. I'll get out of here.
That's cool. All right. So you might have noticed when we did the board members slide that there was 2 board members shown and not 3. So we do technically have an opening right now for the board. So if you have any interest at all, or just want to like hear kind of a little bit more about what board members do, you can find myself or you can find Brandon and talk to us, and we can kind of tell you what we're looking for, and yeah, we'll go from there. Otherwise, you got. All right, cool. Agenda for next month. So like I said, we do have 2 speakers lined up for next month already. It should be really cool. Otherwise, like I said, we're looking for talks all the time. So go to the website. There's a little button that says submit a talk. Enter all your info. You don't actually have to use it, but it's really helpful. So if you also just have an idea and you want to bounce it off us, just come find us and talk to us, and we'll give you some ideas. Otherwise, we're going to switch to Jake real fast. Let's see. I got to stop presenting. Stop. We're going to mirror it. What can you see right now? Yeah. What's up there right now? Oh, that's just, okay. Yeah, so that's my other desktop. All right, so first of all, how do I do full screen? Do you remember how to do that?
Nope, that's the wrong one. No, I think it's still just, if we duplicate, it wasn't set on duplicate. There we go. All right. Really quickly before we get started, I'm going to keep things quick, so I'm not going to do a live demo or anything. But I do have all the code, but both that went into creating the last mini CTF, as well as proof of concept solve, both working and non-working examples. They're up in this GitHub repo along with these slides. I guess if anyone wants to play along, they can grab those real quick, then we go back to the front of the presentation. All right, so the last month's mini CTF, you were basically given the source code and a binary for a program that was running, and that program was then running on a server in AWS, and you basically were tasked with developing an exploit that you could run against that program that would cause it to divulge the flag. So a note to get onto this sort of style of CTF, which I've called shell or pwn style. Basically, what you get is, while you do have access to the binary, and may or may not have access to source code, your objective is to develop that exploit, develop some sort of input you can give to that program that when it runs will cause it to do the behavior that you want, whether it's just divulging a flag or dropping a shell or something. That's mostly to make you play it the way that you're supposed to and not just run strings on it and get the flag. But when a binary like that is running, it'll just be running usually with SOCAT on a specific port. And it's just set up with some shell redirection so that that binary that's running on the remote server has standard in and standard out exactly the same as if you run it locally. So if you can come up with some input, whether it's as simple as it just asks you for the password and you give it the password, if it'll work locally running it with standard in and standard out, if you just netcat or telnet to the server where it's running and do the same thing, you should ideally get the same behavior, this time getting it to actually give up the flag. And so it's a general workflow for a CTF challenge like this. To do this one, the tools used is just a text editor, GCC or AS just as an assembler, obj copy and obj dump just to check stuff. Not really needed. So the process, I don't have a full source code listing here, but the process does a little bit of setup at the beginning. The first bit of setup is to set unbuffered IO. You'll see this in a lot of this sort of thing just to make sure that if a seg fault triggers, you'll actually get the output that you expect. Things like if you have a printf immediately followed by a seg fault, it might not actually ever show that results from a printf, especially if it's running in a pipe like SOCAT. So that's just something you'll see a set vbuff call like that in a lot of these CTF challenges. Similarly is also setting up execute permissions, right? Deliberately trying to make it vulnerable. Modern operating systems, modern Linux at least, is pretty good against not letting input land somewhere that's executable and then jumping to it. Right here is essentially just allocating a single memory page that's aligned and setting read, write, and execute permissions on it. So now you just have a 4K buffer that's writable and executable, which is used later for it. And then this is the binary equivalent of exec read line. Just reads 4 kilobytes into this buffer, the shellcode buffer that was allocated earlier, and then executes it. And getting that syntax right, and when I was writing this, I actually got that syntax right on the first time, and I was very pleased with myself, because it is some of the weirdest syntax in the entire C programming language to cast something to a function pointer and then call it. But that is binary exec read line. So a lot of times at this point you can just get a payload that executes a shell, grab that off a shell storm, and then feed it into the binary and it'll drop shell and you'll win. It'll say enter shellcode, you'll enter the shellcode, and it'll execute that shellcode, and now you have a shell because it's executed bin sh instead of that binary. It's the domain that if you Google for x86 shellcode, you just get it. If you Google for shellcode, you'll find it on Shellstorm. But it won't work in this CTF because seccomp is a thing that is pretty cool, and basically I specifically used it in this CTF to make sure that any shellcode that's already out there won't work. So MSFN and payloads won't work on this. You're going to have to write something by hand. So what seccomp does, and I'm planning on doing a more in-depth talk on this in the future, it basically allows you to use very expressive packet filtering syntax to choose what syscalls the process is ever allowed to make ever again. In this particular case, this is a long convoluted filter that basically says you can only call open, read, write, and exit. So you can't call exec, you can't call socket. If you were to upload say a MSFN and payload that's going to try to do a reverse shell by calling socket and connect and all that, it won't work because you're only allowed to use open, read, write. And a couple of variants therein that libc uses like open at. So you have to write a payload that opens the flag, reads it, and then writes it to standard out. You do know the flag file name, it's flag.txt, it's sitting directly adjacent to the binary. So you need to set up the syscalls to do that open, read, write. x86-64 calling conventions, it's a syscall instruction. The arguments go RDI, RSI, RDX, R10. I think for this proof concept, it only ever uses the first 3 arguments anyway. And the syscall number goes in RAX. The syscall number for open is 2, read is 0, write is 1. So you can get by pretty easily there writing a payload. Breaking down the payload, and this payload example is in the GitHub repo. It says payload x86-64.s. Essentially what we're doing for this one is we have to set up this open call, just to make a call to open flag 00, standard open syscall. The flag is a character buffer. It needs to be a pointer. And to be position independent, the easiest way to hack that really quickly is just to explicitly do an LEA that's relative to the instruction pointer with a label that comes after the code part of the shell code. And then set up the syscall with DI, SI, DX, and then 2 into RAX for the syscall number for open, and then call it. So now we have the file descriptor in RAX. We set up our read syscall, moving RAX to RDI, first parameter, SI, and then DX. And we do need a buffer. The read syscall reads it into a buffer, and we're just going to read 128 bytes fairly arbitrarily. Why not just use the free stack pointer? It's free real estate, right? The stack pointer's there, it points into memory, and as a bonus, we're just going to like completely destroy any future that this program has of executing correctly anyway. So just use the stack pointer, it's a pointer. And then finally, the write syscall, basically an inverse of the read syscall. We're still using the stack pointer, still using the same file descriptor, and then the length of 128. And so running that, well, so that's the payload. Open, read, write. Open flag.text, read it into a buffer, and then write the buffer to standard output. So to compile it, you can do it with GCC or AS explicitly. GCC will actually work as an assembler if you give it .s files, and that lets you use the preprocessor if you ever need to do that. And that'll just spit out a .o. Now your .os are, if you're at all familiar with compiling C, that's sort of the intermediate and you need to go through an extra step to link it and get all the libraries, we can actually just bypass that because we've just got this tiny little snippet of code that's like 20 instructions that are just going to be executing in isolation. So because it's position independent, which emulates what you can get with -fpic on GCC, although this is much more explicit. The only label that it's using is that flag label, which is instruction pointer relative. So it doesn't need to do any external linking to find that. And you can actually check that by running objdump with the -r flag to dump the relocation entries that basically says when it tries to link this .o, what symbols is it going to look for in all of the other .os, and it's done. This is entirely self-contained. It exports no symbols. Well, it actually does export a symbol, but it requires no other symbols. So you can just copy that chunk of compiled or assembled machine language, assembled assembly, just copy it out with objdcopy and spit out a flat binary file that has those x86 instructions in binary in that beginning where it begins. It's great. You don't have to fuck around with a linker script or any of that. Just rip it out if you have a self-contained binary and a .o. And then to run it, you can test it locally by running runner.elf and feed it in. It'll not really, well, it will work. I think there's a proof of concept flag in the GitHub repo. But to run it with the real flag, you'll instead just pipe that same input, which contains those same x86 64 instructions, and pipe those into netcat. And it will divulge the flags. So once again, you can do that by just pulling down this GitHub repo. The server is still up, and running make and then the netcat command, and it will give you the flag. It'll pull it down from the server. All you need to have is make and a decent programming environment, so not Windows. But that has the sources. That does have the source code for the runner. The runner is pre-compiled because the runner itself is linked against muscle for dependency reasons. So that's all there if you want to go ahead and study that yourself. This is the sort of stuff that I like working with, so if anyone wants to talk to me after this about linker magic and whatnot, that's cool. Or if anyone has any questions or wants an interactive walkthrough when I find a way to charge my laptop. All right.
All right, so we will take a short break. Let's see, Dave is first on the agenda, right? So, Dave, how much time do you want? Just a couple minutes? All right, so maybe take like 5-10 minutes, get another drink, and then we'll be back here.